My name is Stephen A. DiBiase, and I'm the co-founder of VentureForge LLC, which facilitates the development and sale of early-stage businesses. I'm qualified by Vistage International as a chair for advising CEOs, have authored several books on innovation and entrepreneurship while being an inventor on over 20 patents. I'm skilled in developing business models, value propositions, and go-to-market strategies for taking high-technology platforms into performance-based markets. As an adjunct professor and senior human resources officer, I've taught how to most effectively utilize human capital in the context of technology-driven business development by aligning business strategy with employee skills and organizational deployment. I've served in senior executive roles as a past member of the Board of Trustees for the Mount Union College and the Industrial Research Institute, sat on its Science Advisory Board for the Pennsylvania State University, was chairman of the Lubrizol Foundation Scholarship Committee, chairman of the Northeastern Ohio section of the American Chemical Society, and board member of the Cleveland Area Research Directors. I've been honored by Pennsylvania State University College of Science with its 2007 Distinguished Alumni Award, have served as an adjunct professor at Benedictine University Business School, and guest lecturer on entrepreneurship and innovation at the Kellogg School of Business at Northwestern University. I served for 26 years with the Lubrizol Corporation, where I held a variety of leadership positions, including VP of R&D and VP of Emulsified Products, and leading a global organization of 1,000 people, managing budgets in excess of $120 million, and successfully launched several new businesses. I'm a 1974 graduate of St. John Fisher College with a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry and a doctorate degree in chemistry from Pennsylvania State University in 1978. Intellectual property describes how intellectual property, while critically important to startups, is often not high on the founder's agenda and can be lost in the chaos of other activities. Founders are often struggling with multiple tasks, from securing customers, managing demanding lead users, generating revenue and eventually profit, satisfying investors while raising new funds, recruiting, hiring and retaining key employees, and so forth. The one critical success factor often de-emphasized in this chaotic mix is IP. My intent in writing this book is to help any startup founder and their leadership team to fit in IP using a well-honed approach for protecting the firm's early successes from the advances of fast followers. To accomplish this, I've applied my 40 years of experience in developing IP strategies to curate an enormous amount of fragmented information into a useful, educated point of view that anyone can use. My approach is to create a handbook, which serves as a reference document, enabling the reader to identify what to do and how to do it in order to construct their firm's IP strategy satisfying their unique business requirements. In essence, it's modeled after the Boy Scout Field Handbook, something proven useful in the real world. Some critical advice. While IP issues may get brushed aside during the early stages of a business, the benefits of a diligent and intelligent IP strategy will produce serious increases in valuation. Startups must be cognizant of the types of IP impacting their business and strategically pursuing a holistic approach to patents, trademarks, copyright protection, etc. as appropriate. Further, startups must begin by assessing the IP landscape of their industries, identifying where their play in the market, informing their investments so that they can win against competitors. Of the various types of IP, patents are often the cornerstone of the IP strategy, protecting their firm's offering, be they products, services, or combinations of various innovations. The first two sections of this course are largely made up of review material of what the basic elements of intellectual property are, and provide a point of view of how these different elements are related to each other. From this introduction, I'll consider why an investor and/or founder should be interested in having an intellectual property strategy. These different elements of intellectual property available for protecting the firm, be they patents, trade secrets, copyrights, know-how, etc., are discussed in the context of how these elements can be used in concert. The first two sections prepare for a review of the general and specific practices for developing a strategy and how one would use these various elements in a holistic approach to protecting their business in Section 3. These principles are then applied to the emerging field of digital technologies in Section 4. In Section 3, general and specific practices were considered for bringing the intellectual property strategy to life. These practices addressed policies and procedure the firm needs to put into place if the strategy is to be effectively implemented and maintained, yielding the desired value over time. Protecting digital intellectual property and a strategy for how the firm would use the various elements in a holistic approach to protecting their business will take on greater importance. The fourth section considers how the firm manages an ever-increasing horde of digital intellectual property and a strategy for how one would use these various elements in a holistic approach to protecting their business. Perhaps most importantly, startups dealing with the Internet of Things, IoT, are facing the unprecedented challenges of protecting digital intellectual property. While many of the conventional intellectual property elements can be applied, how they create a secure intellectual property estate is to be determined by intellectual property masters who can visualize how to assemble them along with the new pieces yet to be discovered into an effective strategy. Unequivocally, the intellectual property landscape is changing as innovations evolve in form from physical items to digital expressions where human concepts are captured in mathematical formats. As the IoT expands, these digital forms of value will gain larger shares of economic activity, leading to new and unexpected strategies of intellectual property protection. Leading startups will embrace this evolution and use it to create broad and sustainable competitive advantages, creating large valuations for their investors. A starting point is to critically evaluate how digital intellectual property fits within the conventional framework and where it doesn't by answering a series of questions. Section 5 assesses how a portfolio of intellectual property elements, leading with patents as the cornerstone element, can be assembled into a holistic response to protecting the firm's business, leading to revenue and profit growth. While these 8 elements are the same for every portfolio, how they're assembled is very situational. Situations are considered in Section 7 via case studies. Section 6 will consider an approach for confusing competitors called curveball strategies, where the firm specifically confuses competition with actions that deter them from understanding the firm's true competencies. Section 7 will address example case studies for various kinds of offerings, from those that represent sophisticated formulated products, software, processes, and devices. Complementing these case studies will be a collection of hyperlinks that the student can refer to for additional information. In Section 8, I'll close the course with a summary of my observations of where intellectual property is going in the future and how I expect it to become even more important to future business activities than it was in the past 300 years. So what should you expect to learn from this course on intellectual property? These are normally termed as the learning objectives in a university setting and are shown on the next slide. The learning objectives for this course are as follows. 1. Becoming acquainted with the kinds of intellectual property available to the firm, such as patents, trade secrets, know-how, copyrights, trademarks, etc., and when and how to use them effectively. 2. Understanding various kinds of agreements for protecting the firm's intellectual property, such as confidentiality agreements, non-disclosure agreements, joint development agreements, etc. 3. Becoming familiar with using patents as the cornerstone of intellectual property strategy. 4. Be exposed to proven intellectual property management processes and the roles played by various parts of the firm, such as sales, marketing, R&D, manufacturing, etc. 5. Recognizing when to select the various kinds of intellectual property strategies, for example, aggressive, assertive, passive, etc., employed in context to external variables impacting the business. 6. Sharing tactics for beating the competition using the firm's intellectual property strategies with mini case study examples. 7. Reviewing 3 complete case studies. 8. Understanding the value of intellectual property masters externally sourced or found within the firm. 9. And finally, obtaining a list of hyperlinked curated references for additional evaluation.